Racial discrimination exists within New Jersey law enforcement against black women and black people in general, and I can prove it. And that is according to a lawsuit that was filed by a New Jersey probation officer whose name is Lyrecia Bonds. And this black woman, like many black law enforcement officers, has stated that her workforce was a hostile work environment, mainly due to racism that came in the form of verbal statements, specific instances of racism that both Bonds and other black co-workers had to endure, according to the lawsuit. And Lyrecia Bonds points out the white supremacy within New Jersey law enforcement. And there are examples that were confirmed by other black people other than Lyrecia Bonds. Like, for example, when Bonds and another black person was watching Netflix, she claims that a white employee said, "Why are you watching a black person's movie? That's disgusting." Or you had the situation where you had Bonds and another black person who were approached by a supervisor who acted surprised and stated that they thought that Bonds and this other black person was gonna rob them. And Bonds was subjected to years and years and years of this. And what confirms this is not just the fact that you've had other people who have worked with this woman who have said similar things. You've had several black law enforcement officers saying that law enforcement in New Jersey is ran by white supremacy. Like, for example, just 37 miles away from where Lyrecia Bonds resides, you have the Trenton Police Department. And yet another black woman came forward talking about an environment of white supremacy because Sheila Cooley was the former New Jersey police director who says that she was fired because she refused to give preferential treatment to white officers. And we've known about the racism within New Jersey law enforcement for quite some time now. Like, for example, back in 1996, you had the case of State versus Soto. And in this case, it was decided that the New Jersey police in their entirety engages in disproportionate traffic stops of black individuals. And so that was the reality that Lyrecia Bonds was simply trying to bring forward. And if you seem to think that the racism within New Jersey law enforcement isn't a serious problem, well, when I talked to Lyrecia Bonds personally, she gave me some stories that are quite shocking. Like, for example, back in 2018, the county of Middlesex in New Jersey had to pay out $800,000 due to racism within a sheriff's department. And so Middlesex County Sheriff's deputies Lonnie Hooper and Shamir Tyson both experienced racism. And that racism was so extreme to the point where the deputies all had lunch in segregated lunchrooms, with white officers eating on one floor and black officers eating on a different floor. And just like Lyrecia Bonds, these black law enforcement officers were subjected to some of the worst racist treatment and some of the most bigoted statements that you could imagine. And the way that you know that the Middlesex County Sheriff's Office has a little problem with racism is that the New Jersey courts have actually affirmed it. Or you have the case of Dr. Michael Campbell, who used to be a patrol officer in the Brunswick, New Jersey area, who says that the racism within New Jersey law enforcement is rampant, and he would know because he was a black law enforcement officer. And he says that his complaints of racism were also ignored. Or you have the case of Ashley Stewart, who was a black woman who was thrown behind bars for an armed robbery charge while she was outside of the country. And the fact that anyone doubted what Lyrecia Bonds was saying is absolutely amazing, because you can make the argument that the first 100 years of the New Jersey State Police's existence was defined by racial discrimination. And then recently, in January of this year, the New Jersey Supreme Court had the rule that New Jersey law enforcement cannot engage in a traffic stop based on race. And so the fact that people are pretending like this woman is lying when you have multiple instances of the highest court in the state of New Jersey having the rule that New Jersey law enforcement is in fact racist tells me that someone is going out of their way to make it appear like she is not telling the truth despite the treasure trove of evidence. And what makes the case of Lyrecia Bonds even worse is that when she filed her lawsuit against the New Jersey courts, not only did she experienced retaliation by being fired, but the courts and police also went after her nephew. And so Najee Davis, who is now 20 years old, is currently incarcerated because back on his 19th birthday, there was a situation in a Chinese food restaurant where he was assaulted, but he was arrested, and because his aunt had an active lawsuit against the courts, well, they decided to make an example out of Najee, who has mental health conditions that are so severe that he cannot stand trial. And the New Jersey courts and law enforcement knew this, and so that's why this woman came to me for help, because I too am a black law enforcement whistleblower, and I think that you, the audience, can help this young man. And I think many fights are worth it out there, but the fight to free Najee Davis is the most important fight on my channel right now. And so we, the citizens, must decide if we're gonna let a state government and also law enforcement silence a black woman and also go after her nephew when they just could not silence her, because I, for one, will not stand for that.